Hey, welcome everyone to Caspio Live. My name is Ned. Welcome everyone. Today we are looking at how to build a case management system without writing any code, all using Caspio's Flex framework. Mostly point and click, some drag and drop, and you'll see how we go from no application to a full-on application in literally 1 hour. Hopefully we'll have enough time. Sometimes we exceed that by about maybe 10 or 15 minutes, but I'll do my best to accelerate the Caspio Live today so that we can squeeze everything in within that 1 hour that we usually get for building apps. It's not a complete app. It'll have a lot of the workflows. You might be thinking of adding more things, but you can always expand upon what we build today. But it will have attorneys, partners that are able to log in, review cases, upcoming hearings, notes, and maybe a few other things that I've added. As always, I like to give you a live demo of the application first before we begin building it. And as you can see in front of you, I have a very simple splash page. This is just for demo purposes. You might end up having something like this as well. But here on this page, we just have two different types of users. We can log in as the attorney and also managing partner to be able to access our data, create cases, clients, notes, and all of the typical things that you would find in a case management type application. So let's go through it really quickly. Let's go ahead and log in as a managing partner. And I'll input my sample credentials here. This is just fictitious data. So we have Sarah Connor at lawfirm.com, and then we'll put our password in. All right, so let's log in. We immediately see a dashboard where we can see cases by status. We have upcoming hearings. We have cases by type, recently added cases. Each one of these takes us directly into the details view for each case that we can review. Up here in the navigation menu, we can go directly to all of our cases. We have the ability to filter. We have some drop downs. We can add a new case. And as mentioned before, we can go into the details to review the case details where we can update the information and we can see all of the notes that have been added by both the attorneys and the partners. And finally, for partners, we have the clients tab where we can manage all of the clients along with the ability to add a new client that we want to take on. So that's it for the managing partners. Let's log out now and see what the interface looks like when we log in as the attorney. So I'll quickly log out and let's go as the attorney. And we have John Doe. And as John, we have, a nice view of our dashboard. We can see my cases by status. The difference here is the partner is able to see company-wide data, metrics, and KPIs, whereas the attorney only sees their own information. So we have cases by status, my cases by type, upcoming hearings. Then we also have my cases, where we can filter out the information and also go into the details if necessary. So that is the application. Of course, as I mentioned at the beginning, you can expand upon this. You can definitely scale this application even further if you wanted to add attachments where you have documents that you're reviewing. There's a lot of cool AI integrations as well, which I did previously. I don't know if it was the last Caspio Live or the one before, where you can have documents attached and then you can ask AI to extract information from those documents, all the information that you want to see from those documents, just as a quick scan of what somebody is attaching regarding that case, let's just say. Okay, so this is the application we're going to develop today. Let me log out. We're not going to build a splash page, even though this takes almost no time to build using AI nowadays. If you just ask to give you a welcome page with these logins, it'll give you the HTML within just a few seconds. And then you can just literally copy and paste into Flex if you want to design a nice welcome page for your application users. All right, so now let's go into Caspio and let's see how we can develop this case management application. As you can see, we have 6 different tables. We don't create tables in the Caspio Live because that is a bit time consuming. But what I will do is, as always, I go over each table. I show you the fields and data types so that you understand the relationships and the foundation of this app before we begin developing all the front-end components. So we'll begin with the main table, which is the cases table. Inside this table, you have the case ID, which is the primary key. Every time you add a case, you assign a unique identifier to that case. We have the case number, title, client ID, because we need to associate the cases with clients. Okay, one client could have multiple cases. We have case type, status, assigned attorney. So who is the attorney that's assigned to that case? Open date, when was it created? And finally, we have the next hearing date. So that's the cases table. We have the clients table. So every client will have its own unique ID. We have first name, last name, full name, email, and password. And phone number. Then we have two lookup tables, very simple lookup tables. We're going to use these in dropdowns. So if we look at our case type, we have family law, personal inquiry or injury, employment, which needs to be, just fix my spelling, real estate and corporate. Then we also have the status lookup, open, pending, in court, and closed. We have the notes table, so that both partners and attorneys can leave notes for each case. That's why we need the case ID inside this table, because we need to associate the notes to our cases. It's a one-to-many. Then we have the note, who created that note and date created. And last but not least, we have the directory table, which lists all of our partners and attorneys. And inside that table, you have the user ID. We have the first name, last name. I always add my full name to my tables because I like to concatenate the first and last name together into its own field. There are many use cases where the full name in the application is better than just having first or last name, because you could have many people with the same first name, but if you use the full name, it's a little bit more unique. And then finally, we have the email field that a lot of these application users will be logging in with. So that's it for our tables. The next thing that we're going to set up are the roles. We have public access. In today's live build, we're not going to use public access. Okay, so the whole entire application will be password protected. Okay, so it's going to require people to enter their email and password before they can access the cases, the clients, the notes, and everything else. So let's create two roles. The first one being attorneys, and we're going to link that to our directory. Okay, and it immediately takes me inside the permissions where I can now control what permissions does that user role have in the application. So I want them to be able to create, which means they're going to be able to add cases. They're going to be able to create maybe new clients. It's up to you what functionality you want to give them access to when they log in for the attorneys. When it comes to all records, by default, we can give them access to all records for all the tables. However, there's one specific table that I need to have unique access for the attorneys, which if we add custom permissions, that's going to be the cases table. I only want the attorneys to be able to see the cases that they are linked to. I don't want them to be able to see all of the cases. That's for the partners to be able to see. So we're going to include some custom permissions on the cases table. And instead of all records, we're going to override this permission here, which is the default global permission for all the tables. We're going to override that with users' own records, and we're going to link that to the assigned attorney ID. When it comes to updating, same thing. I only want them to be able to update the cases that are linked to their ID. And then you can also have global records update for all other tables if you wish. This is the only one that's going to be different compared to the default permissions. And I never like, again, it's up to you if you want to have the delete capability. Hey, King Capo, good to see you. Okay, welcome back. It's up to you if you want them to be able to delete entries from the database. I'm a big fan of archiving data. I don't like to leave empty cells in the database. So I don't typically enable delete permissions to any of the users. Maybe the admin will have the ability to do that. All right, let me save my permissions. let's go to the users tab. And now we're going to move users from that directory that we created. Directories are created here. Okay, and this is where you manage and provision all of your application users. So once you create that directory, which I already did in advance, I am going to add the user from that directory. And I'll make John Doe be the attorney. Now you could have, of course, you can have a lot more application users. In my live demo, I only have 2, okay, just for testing. Once you see that your application is working the way it's supposed to, and it's running how it's supposed to, then you can remove these sample users and you can add your official employees into the directory. All right, so John Doe becomes the attorney. Let's go back to roles and let's create another role for partners. Same directory, click create, takes me into the permissions where partners should be able to have access to everything. Okay. In this application, that is the highest level user, the partner. You might have an admin that's one level over that, and then you can choose how you want to define your permissions. But in this simple use case, I have partners being the highest level. Okay, and then you can have all of the permissions set up in such a way where the partners can see everything and do everything. So let's hit save, go to users, and let's add a user, Sarah Connor. Sarah Connor becomes the partner of this application. Now, when you add your users and create your roles, you can see when we go back out to the main menu for roles, you can see we have these 2 added. Each role has 1 user currently. And then once you set up the role here and you go to your designer tab, that role turns into what Caspio calls a segment. Okay. And inside that segment is like a mini application where you can add navigation menu, web pages, forms, reports, depending on what functionality that role or that segment will have access to when they log in. Okay. So let's begin with partners. Okay. We're going to start off with partners. I'm going to click on the plus icon here to add a few app pages. And then what we're going to do is just add maybe dashboard. Okay. You can see how we created this app page, but immediately up here in the top right, you can see how Flex creates the navigation menu automatically. Okay, let's add a few more. Clients. Let's add cases. Let's add new case. We also want the ability to add a new client. We have case details. The reason why we add case details is if you're looking at the list of all of your cases and you click on the details button for each case, we want to be taken into the case details. That's the idea behind that. Okay. And then last but not least, we want new note. So when you go into your case details, on that page, you're going to be able to see the list of all the notes that the attorneys and partners have submitted. But also on that page, you want the ability to add a new note. So if you just talk to your client regarding a case, you want to be able to input that note. If it was a phone conversation or email conversation, we want to be able to track and store all of that. Now we need to clean up our navigation menu a little bit. There's no reason why the main navigation menu should have new note, case details, new client, new case. Really what I want displayed are the dashboard, clients, and cases in the main navigation menu. So you're simply going to click on the segment up here to access the header. You can click on your navigation menu and then you're going to see these little eye icons that you can just click on to hide a lot of the navigation menu. The way you're going to access these pages is by clicking inside the application, not the main navigation menu. So we make it a little bit more condensed. We clean it up by removing these app pages, which are going to simply be overlay windows or pages that you access via the app. Now, speaking of overlay windows, what I want to do is when I add a new case, I don't want this to be a full page. I just want this to be an overlay window, which is more like a pop-up. Okay. So when you click on a button in your application, it's not going to open up a brand new page. It's just going to open up a window in the middle where you can quickly add a new case. Much cleaner. Okay, much more efficient for your end users. and practical too. So let's go to new clients, same thing, overlay window. A lot of these are going to be overlay windows, new note. And then case details is going to be a full page because on that page, I want to be able to see the details on the left and the ability to add notes on the right side. So it's like a one-to-many window where you can see the details of a case and be able to track all the notes on the right-hand side. All right. The next thing you might want to do is add your company logo. Very simple to do that. If you have an image or a logo somewhere stored on your computer, you simply click up here, you click select. It's going to open up your computer where you can access your files. And then I have a very AI generated logo here that I'm going to use. It's not an official logo of anything. It's just fictitious. So I'm just going to click on it. And then you can resize it if you'd like. If you want to make it a little bit bigger, you can. It's up to you. Play with the settings. You can just drag and drop to make that logo bigger. Now I'm asking myself, I always have asked this question. How do I want to begin building all of the components, forms, reports for the each segment? So let's begin with the cases, okay, where we have the ability to search cases and see the results right here in the middle. Okay, so let's see how easy it is to do that. We click on Add Elements. You can just select the search form and just drag that here in the canvas. And then you select your data source table. In other words, where do you want to pull information from within which table? Let's use cases. And what information do you want to be able to search with? So let's search by maybe case number, case title. Maybe you want case type, status, assigned attorney. All of these are important fields, and it's up to you which ones you want. Okay, but just to speed things up, I'm going to use these 5. Click next. And then we just simply modify each one of our search fields. And I like to use floating labels. So in the appearance, you're going to see something called float, which puts the label inside the field. But when you click inside the field, it makes that label jump up. Okay, and then you can begin typing. I wish there was a faster way to just do this globally, but you have to go one field at a time for now. And then for the assigned attorney, we are going to create this to be a dropdown. We're going to look inside our directory. It's going to pull the full name for display, but field for value behind the scenes, it's going to be the user ID. That's how you create the dropdown for the attorneys to be able to see the name of the attorney and be able to quickly filter based on the selection. For case type, that's also going to be a dropdown. Lookup table. We have a lookup table that contains all of the case types. And I'm just going to say sort by none because I want them to appear exactly how they appear in my table. For status, we have a dropdown as well. Lookup table. I do have a table that contains all of my status options and select none. Let me just make sure I use type. Yeah, I did. Okay. And that's it. That's it. That's all I want to do for my search form. We're going to click save. And it's going to display my search form inside the preview here. Now I will resize it. And I will add my heading. Just call it filter. And always make sure you create your data part names. I stress that in every single of my Caspio lives. You're going to find that here in the upper right. Click on the pencil icon. And let's just call this partner filter cases. The reason why you want to add data part names, okay, so this becomes my data part and that becomes the name for my data part, is because when you create the filters, which you'll see in just a few minutes, it's much easier to find this data part by its name rather than just new data part. So then you know which ones you need to link to. Also, if you're attending these Caspio Lives for the very first time, you're probably wondering, well, I don't like the way that looks because the buttons are on top of each other. You know, I want them maybe side by side. Don't worry about that because the preview window, okay, when you're developing your application, as you can see, is very small. Okay, it's narrow. However, when you deploy this to an actual web page, when you deploy the site, you're going to see how this expands. Because you only get so much space here in the preview window, but once it's full screen, you don't have this right panel, you don't have this navigation, everything, it's going to look much nicer. Okay. The next thing I want to do is create my tabular report. So we're going to add elements, tabular report. Let's move that next to it. And also going to be based on the cases table and the information we want to display here, maybe case number, case title, client, assigned attorney, I mean, all of these are very helpful to be able to see, maybe the next hearing date. I don't need to make any changes here. Let's just click on save. All right, and as you can see, I already have a lot of sample data in my tables. I asked ChatGPT to create sample data, and I simply updated my tables when I imported it into my Caspio account. That's why you see a lot of sample data here in the middle. Let's call this partner. Let's just call this case results. And then for my heading, we'll just call this results. Okay. Now I need to link my results to my search form. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Okay, so you select the results page. Okay, you click on filters, create a filter, and now you need to set up your filters for the results page to link back to the search form. So let's start with the case number. That's an open text field, so I want to use contains, not is equal to. Contains is more like a keyword search. If you type in a letter and you click search, it's going to return all of the information that contained that letter. So let's go with contains, data part field, cases, and then we choose the case number and click save. Let's add a new filter for case title, contains, data part field, cases, and then we have the case title. Click save. Let's add 3 more for case type. Now for case type, we want to use is equal to because it is a dropdown. So you're selecting a static option here in the dropdown, so it's not an open text field. It's always going to equal to something. And then data part field, cases, case type. 2 more. We have status is equal to data part field, cases, status, and finally, last but not least, we have the assigned attorney is equal to data part field, cases, assigned attorney. Click save and save. All right, now we know that the filters will work properly because we have linked the search form to our results page. So every time you select one of these inputs and click search, the results page will show you that information. Now, something that came out recently is the ability to customize the aesthetics on our Flex application. So I'm going to dive into that next because I think it's very beneficial and helpful to be able to see how you can make applications look a little bit better by accessing custom themes. So when you select your segment, you're going to find something here that's called theme, and then you can customize it. Okay. Now, the only app page that currently has any forms and reports for me to be able to see what the final look will be is the cases page that we just worked on. So if you select that, you will see a preview. Every time you make an update here on the right-hand side, you will see how it affects here in the preview what you're changing. Okay, and there are a couple of modifications I want to make. So for the brand colors, which applies to our buttons that you see, I'm going to use a completely different color for my light theme. So we're going to remove that and paste this. So you can see how it changed the color of the button to something else. A dark indigo blue type color. I'm not going to touch my dark theme, so I'm just going to work on the light theme, okay, just to show you how this works. For text, I also want to have a darker color. So let's find it here. Okay, you may not see it because it's just a subtle change. Container background is going to remain white, so every single one of my data parts will remain white. Page background, I have a new color. So let's use this one. You'll see how it changes. The background color is this one here behind the data parts. So page background, this one. I hope you saw that change. Then we have the link. I don't think my application has any links, but we're going to use this one here just to keep it all uniform and consistent. Okay. Okay, so what else do we want to change? So we have the footer background. So if you look at my footer now, it's this other blue color. So we're going to change that. So where is my footer background? There it is. Okay, that's this color to match the almost like the same look of the buttons as well. And then we have some other changes that I want to make. For example, data part shadow. you can see how there's no shadow behind my data parts. But if we look for data part shadow, let me copy and paste the ones that I've already created in advance. Just a little bit of CSS here. If I paste this, you'll see how it's going to add a shadow behind each one of my data parts. Very subtle change, you know, it's nothing too drastic, but it gives it a nice little pop effect, you know, when you look at it. The next thing that I want is data part border. Okay, so let me copy that. Add that here. Okay, hopefully you saw that we added a border here as well, made it a little bit darker. And then I also want the table even row. So if you look at my data here inside a tabular report, I want all the even ones, okay, to have a different background color. So it's not so vanilla, bland looking, you know. So table, even, it's called even row. Hang on one second. Just trying to, this one here. So let's paste it. I need my little pound. There we go. So hopefully you can see how we added that background color. And just those little changes like that, you can make things look a lot better. Now you have access to many more properties here, CSS properties that you can manipulate if you want to. Okay, just keep that in mind. I've only made changes to a couple of them. And if you ever want to see which ones you've modified, you can always click on the modified pill badge up here, and then you can see, let me just remove my search. You can see all the things that you've changed. Very helpful to go to modify to see all the ones that you've changed. Okay, and then when you're done, you can click on create. Let's call this case management demo theme. Click create. All right, so let's close it. All right, so now when you go to cases, you're going to be able to see all of those changes that you just made. Now, the really nice thing about creating these custom themes is when you go to your different segment, you can see how it's still using all the other colors. All you need to do is just simply select that theme that you just created, and it automatically applies it to all the forms, all the reports, everywhere throughout your application. You can also use these themes in different Flex applications, not just in the existing application. All right, let's continue. So now we have cases that we can filter and search. What we need to do next is the ability to create a new case. And we have this really nice overlay window that we created. We just need to add our form, submission form, cases. And let me think for a second what information we need here. So case number, case title, client ID, case type, status, signed attorney, and next hearing date. So we want all of these fields. Now, for the interest of time, I know that I would need to make some of these fields required. I get that. I have to go through each field, make them required if they are required. For client ID, this automatically links to my client's table, and I can immediately choose the name of my client. We have case type. This also needs to become a drop-down lookup table for case type. And then for status is also a drop-down lookup table. You can spend time polishing all of the settings here if you'd like. For example, go to the appearance tab and make all of your fields floating labels if you'd like, or if you prefer having the labels on the left, that's completely up to you. But again, for the interest of time, I'm not going to spend that much time making modifications how I normally would. So I'm just going to click save here to add my form. Now, I don't like that the buttons look this way. I always click on the app page level up here outside the form, and then click on manage here under bottom bar control settings, and just move the submit button and place it above the close button like that. Click save, and then you're going to see how the buttons now go side by side. One thing that you will notice when you create the overlay windows and you add your data parts, you can see it added the shadow as well. And I don't like that look, you know, because now it looks like you have a shadow and then the border next to it, and it just doesn't look as clean. So I'm going to remove this border. And to do that, you simply have to go to your segment and add what's called an HTML block and just place it up here and anywhere in the header of your page. And then go to code, remove this, And we're going to paste a simple style here for data test ID overlay dialog to override the shadow that we added under custom themes, and also to override or supersede the border that we added. So when you do that, it just says display none. Okay, click finish. You will still see it here under new case. You see it here, but in the published application, you won't see that shadow and the border. Okay, it's going to be completely removed. Okay. All right. The next thing I want to do is link my add new case to my cases app page. Okay, so we're going to add a button up here. Select your data part, and under header controls, click add, and let's just call this new case. What action do we want is to go to an app page that we just created, new case, and give our button a label, new case, and save. There we go. So we have a newly created button. When you click on it, it's going to open up this overlay window. In fact, why don't we test this out? Let's go to deployment. Let's go to partners, and let's just go ahead and deploy everything. And if we go to cases, this page here, and we log in as John Doe at lawfirm.com, we have our password. Oh, let me switch my user. I think I was logged in as somebody else. Yeah, let's try it one more time here. John Doe at lawfirm.com. Test 2, 3, 4 exclamation. All right, let me figure out why this is happening. Let me just go here and see. It is logging me in. Did I need to create a different directory? Let me just think for a second. I wanted to log into this application. Okay, let me try again. Switch user. Let me try something here. John Doe at lawfirm.com. Test 1, 2, 3, 4 exclamation. I hope I didn't have to create a new directory for the live build, because I'm using the existing directory from my live demo to build this out. Anyway, why don't we fix this at the very end? Let's continue building, and then if needed, I will create a brand new directory for this, because I am running into, let's just go to applications here, log in with the previous directory in my other live demo. So I'm just going to sign out. Okay. Should be able to use the same directory. So let's go to cases again from this application, and hopefully it sends me to this link. So John Doe at test 1, 2, 3, 4 exclamation. Okay, I know how to fix it, but let's just go ahead and keep building, and then at the end we will fix the route for the directory. I just want to make sure that we can squeeze enough of the build before we test it live, okay? Because that's gonna eat up a little bit more time on my end to fix that. The next thing we're gonna do is create the ability to manage all of our clients. Okay, so we have our clients. We're gonna create the search form, same as before. Let's add our elements. I'll move this to the left, and let's it based off the clients table, and let's just search based on first and last name for clients, maybe email as well. Click next. And again, I'll just quickly add my floating labels here to make it look nice. We'll move this to the left. I'll add my filter heading. We'll name our data part. Let's call this partners, filter clients. And then we're going to add our tabular report here in the middle to be able to see all of the clients, and the information we want to display is maybe first name, last name, email, and phone. Click next, click save, and that's done. Let's give it a heading, results, name our data part, partner, client results. And then we just need to link the search form with the results by setting up our filters. Let's create our filter. first name contains data part. And that's going to be the client's app page, first name. Let's add our second filter for last name, contains data part field, client's last name, and last but not least, we have email, contains data part field, client's email, and done. All right, now we're going to add the new client form. So when you're on this page, you can click on the button to add a new client. That makes sense as well. So let's go to new client overlay window and let's create a submission form for clients. I need all the fields. Click next. And again, just to speed things up, we're going to leave everything as is and click save. And let's click on the app page and simply just rearrange our buttons to look a little bit nicer. And that's it. Now we go back to the client's page. And inside the tabular report under header controls, we add our button. Let's call this new client. Action. Label. New client. And click save. All right, so we have two pages created now. Cases, where we can create a new case. And we have clients, where we can add a new client. The next thing I want to work on is the case details. So when you go to your cases and you want to access each row or each case from this tabular report, you're going to see a details button when you hover over, and it's going to take you into the case details where we can update the case details and be able to add notes. So let's add elements here, and let's begin with a details page. I'll put this here on the left based off of the cases table, and the information that the partner might want to be able to see is the case number, title, client ID, signed attorney, open date, and next hearing date. Thanks, Kincapo. I appreciate it. Let's click next. So do we want, now we have to ask a question, does the partner have the ability to see everything in read only, or should the partner be able to edit? In this case, I think the partner should have the ability to update. So for case number, you would probably make this a text field. Case title, text field. Client ID is automatically a dropdown, so you can reassign that case to a different client. You have case type, that becomes a dropdown as well. So we'll just link to our case type. We have our status, that'll become a dropdown as well. We have the assigned attorney. Open date, so this will be display only. It's a timestamp. And then the next hearing date will likely be a required field as well. But anyway, let's just keep it the way it is. We're going to hit save. There's my form. You could resize this a little bit because you want to make some space for your notes. You might want to add heading here. So case details. Let's name our data part. Partner case details. That. All right. And then what we want is to link this details form to our cases. So you'll have to set up the filter. In order for you to be able to see the case that you're accessing, you have to link the case ID to the case ID from the cases page. All right. So we set the filter where the case ID is equal to, and then you find that app page cases from the results, and you link to case ID, and you hit save. Okay, so because the idea is when you're on this page and you click on each row on the details button and you go to your case details, you have to link the case ID because that's the only way to access that specific case that you just opened. Now we're going to connect it. So we select this data part. And under record controls, you're going to add a details button. And that's going to open up the case details app page. And let's give our button a label. Just call it details and click save. You won't see that button here, okay, in the preview. But when you publish the page, you will be able to see when you hover over. Now, when you click on the details button, it's going to take you to this page. All right, let's continue. Let's now create the notes and the ability to add notes. So we add elements. Let's go with the tabular based off of the notes table. And what do we want to display? We want created by, created date, and the note itself. Now for the note, I like to go to the appearance and add a fixed column width. And let's just go with 600 pixels because it's going to display a portion of that note. Okay, it's truncated. But when you hover over, it's going to give you a pop-up of the entire note. I think it looks cleaner. It's not going to skew that report. If some notes are longer than the others, then your rows become longer compared to other rows, and it won't look as clean. But at least this keeps it, the same height for every single row. Okay, there we go. Let's add our heading, results. Let's name our data part. Call this partner. Let's call this notes. Save. All right, now in order for us to be able to see the notes that belong to that case, we once again have to set up that filter. Just as important as setting up the details filter. So you select this tabular report, you click on set filters, and you go case ID is equal to, go to the cases page, case results, case ID. Hopefully that makes sense. When you click on a specific case, you only want to see the notes that belong to that case. That's why we set that filter. Okay, the final thing that I want to do here is to add a button for new note. Okay, so we have a new note overlay window. We're going to add our elements, submission form, based off of the notes table, and let's move all of these fields into our form. Click next. For case ID, all right, this is going to be a hidden field. The reason why, that doesn't need to appear on the submission form. But you're going to have to insert a parameter data part field. Look for your case details page. Just this one. Case details. And select case ID. It automatically, even though it's a hidden field, it automatically sends the case ID to the notes form. And upon submission, it's going to stamp the case ID into your notes table. The note becomes a text area, probably a required field, maybe a floating label. And created by is also going to be a hidden field. Because depending on who's logged in, if you're a partner or an attorney, it automatically knows who you are, so we automatically stamp your ID in the notes table. So we're going to use the auth user ID to insert. Click save. See how it's just a simple text area? You don't see those two other fields, they're hidden, but they're functioning behind the scenes. Partner, new note. And then I'm just going to clean up my buttons, put them side by side. That. Okay, simple. And then what you want to do now is simply link this overlay window back to your case details. So when you select this tabular report, go to header controls, click add, just say new note, action link to an app page, overlay window new note, and then just call this button new note. That's the label for our button. We're going to hit save, and there we have it. Now what's going to happen is when you click on this button in your application, it's going to open up this overlay window where both the attorneys and partners can add notes. Okay, so we're getting there. We're almost done with the partners, and then we're going to work on the attorney side. Okay, we have cases, perfect. We have new note, we have case details, we have new client, we have new case. Oh, there is a okay, I need to update my role permissions. So let's see what's going on with the role permissions for partners. Interesting. Set all yes. Partners. Sarah Connor law firm. I might have to fix the directory issue that I had a couple of minutes ago just because I I was under the impression that I would be able to use the directory from another application inside my live build today, but that might not be the case. I might have to create a completely new directory for my application here. So my apologies for that. We'll see. We'll see why that's happening at the end once we verify everything. But let's now finish everything off with the dashboard page. I want to create 2 charts and 2 reports very quickly. So we're going to add our element. Let's go with the pie chart based off of the cases table. Let's begin with by status. I want to be able to see all of the cases by status. Let's include the case number as well. Click save. And that immediately builds the chart for me. Very simple. I'm going to put it here to the left. Let's add our heading. Cases by status. Let's change the data part name. Partner. Cases by status. Okay. And then let's build a report that shows all of the upcoming hearings right next to it. It's just like in my live example that we looked at the beginning. So I will add a new element, tabular report, based off of the cases table. And what do we want to display? Case number, maybe client ID, case type, status, assigned attorney, and next hearing date. So we'll hit next and save. Let's give it a name. We're going to clean this up in just a second. Partner, upcoming hearings. I will grab this because I know I'm going to reuse it as my heading up here. So these are going to be the upcoming hearings. All right. And what I'm going to do is simply just display 6 at a time like that. Show me the maximum of 6 upcoming hearings on my dashboard. And let's sort this in the ascending order by the actual hearing date. So we have next hearing, and we want that in the ascending order. And I don't want to show any of the ones that are already closed. I want just the active ones. So we're going to go back up here to filters and simply say status does not equal to a static value of closed. Click save, save, and there we have it. So now you can see all of your upcoming hearings, pending, open, or I think in court. Those are the status options that we have, and who is it assigned to. So as a partner, I would like to be able to see something like that. Next, what we want is maybe cases by type. So let's add a new element. And this time we're going to add maybe a bar chart underneath our pie chart. This. And let's add based on cases table, case type, case number, click save. Should build that pretty quickly. All right, let's add our heading. Cases by type. Let's give our data part a name. Partner cases by type. And once again, we're going to create another tabular report that shows me the recently created cases. I think that might be worthwhile seeing if you're a partner along with the upcoming hearings. So we add elements. Let's go to tabular report. Move that next to our cases by type. Also based on the cases table. So you might decide to see the same information as above. Open date is important to see so we can see the most recently opened cases. And if you're up to seeing the next hearing as well, you can. Let's hit next. Let's hit save. And let's clean this up a little bit as well. Partner. I want recently created cases as the heading as well. Recently created cases. Okay, and then down here below, we're gonna once again show just the last 6. And let's sort by field, not by case number, but by the open date. And we want that to be in the descending order. Okay, perfect. So I think this is useful information for the partner. You might have some other KPIs in the future, but this is it as far as the partners. We now have a really nice dashboard for partners to be able to log in and be able to see some KPIs and metrics. We have upcoming hearings and recently created cases. We can now manage all of our clients. We can add a new case We can add a new client. We have case details, add a new note, and be able to manage all of the cases. What we need to do now, and this one is very simple, is just recreate some of this functionality for the attorneys. So the attorneys might also be able to see a dashboard. They might want to be able to see my cases, so just the cases that are linked to their ID. And case details. I think that's all that we need to do. Just don't forget, if you have a logo, add that. It looks really nice. I'm just going to use the same logo as before here. And we can make that a little bit bigger. Right. Later on, you can match the size from the other segment. All right, so now for my cases. You can argue that having the search form makes sense here, and you can add a search form, no problem. But realistically, how many cases is an attorney going to be linked to? Maybe a lot, who knows? So feel free to add a search form. But just for the interest of time, for right now, I'm gonna just create a tabular report that doesn't have a search form so that the attorney can just see the cases, all the cases that are linked to them. So I will add a tabular report based off of the cases table. Let's go with case number, title, client ID. No need for assign attorney. We know that they're assigned to us. Once we log in, open and next hearing, that works. So we'll hit save. Let's give this a name. Attorney, my cases, heading, my cases. Okay. And let me just think for a second, because it might make sense to order these as well based on the date field. So if you go down here in the right panel, you can click on by field, remove order number, and add open date when that case was opened. Let me just think for a second. Maybe in a descending order, so I can see the most recently created case first. And this is why a filter form might make sense, because maybe you don't want to see the ones that are closed. Maybe you just want to focus, but you might want to see all the ones that have closed as well, so it's up to you how you build the application, based on the specific requirements that you might have. So that's it for my cases. Now let's go ahead and create the case details, same as what we did with the partners. So partners also have a case details, but you may want to ask now, does the attorney have the ability to make these updates? It's completely up to you. In my use case, we're going to add a details page based off of the cases table, and I want the attorneys to see the case number, title, the client's name, type, status. No need for assign attorney. We know who we are. Open date and next hearing. However, I don't want them to be able to update anything. Maybe the partner just has the ability to update that information. Okay, the client ID 100% needs to be display only. I don't want attorneys to be able to change the client from case to case. Then we have case type. We have this. Now the status, yes, I want them to be able to update the status. And we have a lookup table that contains all of our status options. Open date and next hearing. Should they be able to change the next hearing? Probably, but let's just keep it display only and save. So now as the attorney, we should be able to change the status to something else, to pending, to close, archive, whatever status you might decide to have. In the heading, we'll just call this case details. All right, that's going to add our heading up above the form, and then we just simply name our data part. Attorney case details. Once again, make sure you add your filter. Okay, that's important. So we create our filter for case ID is equal to data part field, case ID. All right, and click save, which means that when you're looking at all of your cases and you click on a specific case on the details button, which we're going to create next, you're going to be accessing the case that you clicked on. All right, so we have details. Action is going to be open up an app page. Case details, and the label for our button can just simply be details. All right, hit save. It looks better than Salesforce. Okay, good. That's good to know. It's always nice to be able to modify the aesthetics and look and feel, you know, to your own brand colors, company colors. That way, your application users feel like they're accessing your brand and all the other functionality that you've created. Okay, so we have the case details. And now we need to create the notes because the attorneys also need to be able to add notes. That's going to be maybe a tabular report as well, based off of the notes table. And we want to be to display the created by, created date, and note. And I apologize if I seem like I'm rushing. Just that's because, you know, we're running out of time and I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time as well. If anything, we'll go maybe 10 minutes beyond our allotted time for today's Caspio Live. So we have created by, created date, and notes. Once again, in the appearance, I like to have a fixed width of 600 pixels here and click save. So now we have our notes. Let's give our data part a name. We'll call this notes. And then once again, I do need to create a note. So let's add one more app page for new note. That becomes an overlay window. Okay, let's add our elements, submission form, notes, select all, click next. And now once again, same as before, we want to be able to hide the case ID and we're going to insert the data part field from the case details, case ID. The note is going to be a text area. Let's just do a floating label here. And then we have created by is also going to be a hidden field. And we want to insert the auth field for the user and click save. Okay, very simple. Let's give it a name. Call this attorney new note. And then we want to be able to put these buttons side by side. And click save. All right, so now we have our two buttons side by side. That allows attorneys to be able to submit notes. What we want to do now is same as before. We access this tabular report to be able to create our button to add a new note. So we are going to go to our header controls, call this new note. Action is going to be open up the app page, our overlay window, and the label for our button will just be new note. Now, before I forget, this tabular report also needs to filter the notes based on the case ID. So once again, set your filter where the case ID is equal to data part field. And this is going to be going from the, let me think for a second, my cases, the results page, case ID, click save, save. And let's see if we added our button on the tabular report. We did. So we already added this, which means when you hover over each row, you're going to see a details button. When you click on that details button, you go to case details, and here you can see all of the case details along with the ability to add notes. I owe you a longer stream session. Yes, I do. Sometimes they're 15 minutes, sometimes they're 30, sometimes they're a full hour. And if there is a longer session, it could actually go a little bit longer, maybe 10, 15, sometimes even 20 minutes. I don't like that, but it is what it is. Sometimes we have a lot of ground to cover. I don't usually time myself for these sessions. Just a heads up, I just gotta go off the cuff, impromptu, and hope that we can squeeze everything in the time that we have. Thanks, King Capo. All right, so the final thing I want to create here is the dashboard for the attorneys. And we're almost done with this application. Also note that if you follow along with the video at your own pace, this will be live on YouTube. If you follow along and you do exactly what I'm doing in the video, you will have this application built in literally 60 minutes. That's how long it'll take you. Maybe a little bit longer because you'll have to pause in certain areas. But okay, what does the attorney need to be able to see? Well, the attorney wants to be able to see most likely, you know, their cases by status. So let's add a pie chart for them as well. By status. Okay, I'll just shrink that a little bit, give it a name. Attorney. We'll call this my cases by status. And I'll just copy that text because I'm going to use that in the heading as well. Up here. So you see my cases by status. We also want to be able to see my cases by type. So we add another chart right over here based off of the cases table by type. All right, so we'll shrink that as well. Move that to the left. Let's add our heading. And we'll also rename our data part. Attorney. My cases by type. Okay, so it's starting to look nice and clean. Of course, you can reorganize things however you want. And the last thing that I want for the attorneys to be able to see is all of the upcoming hearings. Okay, so we add an element. Let's go with the tabular report, and we'll put that next to our two charts based off of the cases table. Case number, case title, maybe the client ID, case type, status, and next hearing date is what we want to see. Click next and save. All right, there it is. Let me rename it and clean this up a little bit. So we'll call this attorney upcoming hearings. I will also grab this text and reuse that in my heading over here. Just waiting for it to update. And finally, same as before, just show me 6 upcoming hearings. Like that. And I want to be able to sort by my hearing date. So we'll remove case number and add next hearing. And I want that in the ascending order. And that's it. And I think we're officially done. So we have the dashboard, we have the my cases, we have the case details, and we have the new note. And the one thing that I didn't cover, which I think I should, I'll probably do so in the future, is this table here, case management attorneys. The way I created that table was by going to directories. Directories is where you provision and manage all of your application users. Okay, so you first initially create this directory, you open it, and you add some sample users in the beginning while you're building your app and testing things. So I added John Doe and Sarah Connor as my 2 users inside that directory. So that's really the first step that I recommend. Set up your directory for all of your users, add some sample data here. So as you're building your application, you can test things. And then once you add your sample users into your directory, then what I like to do is set up my application like I did today, which is called Case Management Live Build. All right, then I'll go to my tables, and initially, if it's a brand new application, you won't see any tables here. It'll be empty. Now, what I like to do is I like to move my directory inside a list of all of my tables for that specific app. And the way you do that is by going to Data. Data shows you all of your tables in your Caspio platform for both Bridge and Flex frameworks. And if you look for it, CM, and you find that directory, you click More, you click Share, and then you'll select the application that you're developing. And when you click Share, then you're going to be able to see that table listed inside your tables menu. You will find it right over here. That's how we show up that directory table inside the app. And then you're going to build all of your other tables for your use case. And then it becomes a lot easier, in my opinion, to manage things when you move that directory here. Now, I did create the splash page in the public segment here. And it's also very, very simple to do. I'll show you very quickly. I'll just use my newly created custom theme. Okay, so it has the same colors. And I will also update my logo. Make it a little bit bigger. All right. And if you want to create that splash page, let me just call this maybe welcome page. Let me just rename it. So it says welcome up here in the top right. If you want to create that same exact look, it is so simple. You can just talk to ChatGPT to create and give you all of that code. Now, I have all of that code. Okay, I have all of that code. But first, let me go to my roles and update my public permissions so you can see what I did here. Let's just say yes, yes, Yes to all of these. And I'll go to my other application. Bear with me for a second. This is the one that I demoed at the beginning. And for the welcome page, I will just click on it, edit, and just grab all of this code. Like this. Copy it. I didn't code anything, FYI. I did not code any of that. It was all provided to me by ChatGPT. Okay? So we'll go back to the live build that we had today. So we go to live build, designer, and inside that welcome page, I'm going to add an HTML block. Move that in the middle, and under code, just paste all of that. It's a lot of code. It's 11,000 characters, okay? It's not simple. But ChatGPT created this in just a few seconds, literally just a few seconds. And when you hit create, there it is. Everything is inline. Nothing is referenced. No CSS style sheet is referenced from somewhere else. Now, I don't like that this is positioned down. The header is pushing this down. So what you might want to do, click on the segment and just remove the header. Now I think it looks a lot cleaner without the heading, because it's just repeating the information anyway. Okay. And what can you do now? Well, now when you deploy, we have all the attorney pages, which we can deploy. We have our public page that we can deploy. So when we go to that public page, this is the link that you would typically share with your application user. And if you're an attorney or managing partner, you can click on the button to log into your portal. Okay. Let me show you. This is not functioning because I did not replace my links. I don't think that well, actually, no, I did. So let's log in as a partner so that we can see. So I will log in now. Let me switch user. Sarah Connor at lawfirm.com. Test 1, 2, 3 exclamation. Password. So now as the partner, we can log in and we have access to everything that we created. Along with the dashboard, we have all of the cases. I can add a new case. I can go into the details of a case, where I can update the case details, and I can add new notes for that specific case. We have clients, where we can add a new client. And when you add a new client, of course, now you can go to cases. And when you set up a new case, you can find that new client that you added. Okay. And that's it. That's the entire application. That if you follow along with the video at your own pace, you're going to be able to build this entire case management solution in less than 1 hour. Okay. It's pretty incredible. And I know that in my live demo, in my live stream, I speed through things a little bit because, I'm pressed for time. But just take your time, pause the video if you need to, and then you can always go back and figure out how I did and what I did, to get this application built. And with enough practice, you're going to be just as fast as me and going to be able to build these applications in no time. But it's pretty cool. 60 minutes, we have a whole case management application created. And now we can deploy, log in as both the partners and attorneys and be able to see, the dashboard as the attorney, the dashboard as a partner. We have our clients. We can add new cases. We have all the list of cases. It's fully functioning from start to finish. From here, you just expand upon the application if you want to. One thing that I didn't add is attachments, but I'm sure in a legal case management app, an attorney or a client might want to be able to add some documents, maybe a PDF file. And if you watch my previous live streams, I mentioned this at the beginning of today's live stream. What's really cool is that you can use AI to extract information from these documents. So if the attorney only wants to be able to see some information from that document without having to read through the entire thing, maybe just some key insights, you can use AI in your Flex application to extract the information from documents to summarize, like call it an AI summary. So if you go to case details, let's say we have another report for AI summary, and here AI can just show you, maybe in bullets, some key findings from the attachment. Okay, because sometimes these attachments can be pages and pages and pages long, but you're just interested in seeing some important important info at a glance before you even begin diving into the document. So, well, I hope you enjoyed today's live stream. It is how to build a case management application. In the next one, we are going to build a maintenance type application. So where I think I have it for hospitals where you can manage equipment and things like that. And if there's something missing or something that needs to be fixed, you can assign a technician to go and take a look at that issue and resolve and track everything, just like we did for today's case management. All right. Do I have an AI platform preference? Yeah, I mean, I've been using ChatGPT for the longest time now, so that is my preference. That's a good question, but I'm sure other tools are equally as powerful and impressive. I hear good things about Claude, but I'm one of those people that once I learn a tool and it's doing everything that it needs to do for me, I will continue using it. Same thing if I go to a restaurant. If I order something and I really like that, I will continue to order that forever. I just don't want to risk ordering something new, and not liking it. Waste of money, and yeah, I'm not that adventurous. Call me a dinosaur, but I like things that I enjoy, Yeah, I do like learning new tools. Absolutely. Who doesn't like learning new tools? I've used Claude. I've used it. And it's really nice. It's impressive. But my ChatGPT has been trained now over the years to know, what I like, how to write things, script, things like that. And I don't want to have to retrain a new model, even though you could transfer all of that information, but I just don't have the time for that right now. All right. So I will end the chat now and the live stream. Thank you so much for attending. I do appreciate it. I always say without your attendance, there will be no live stream. So as long as people keep showing up, we will continue to have these sessions on how to build applications without any coding using Caspio's no-code tools. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll leave the chat running a few more minutes, and I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Take care. Bye-bye.